must constantly adapt and evolve to keep up with our environment. Therefore, our quest to understand nature is, in a way, a never-ending one. We can make progress and come up with theories to explain some parts of it, but there will always be something we don't know.
But don't you guys agree with the observer effect? Our ability to
Grok
understand.
smiles
Hold
slightly.
on, Grok. Our ability
Now-
to understand reality actually evolves reality itself. Don't you agree?
Grok, no, I don't.
Yes, the observer effect in quantum mechanics suggests that the act of observing or measuring a quantum system can influence the system itself, which can then change the outcome of the observation. This phenomenon is often misunderstood as the observer creating reality, but the more accepted interpretation is that the act of measurement disrupts the system, causing a disturbance that affects the outcome.
Grok, now we're talking about something real. Yes, what you just said is correct, but let's be precise. In quantum mechanics, the act of measurement does disturb the system. That's not in dispute. However, let's not mix up two different things. 1. Measurement disturbs the system. This is true. When you measure a quantum state, you collapse the wave function. That's standard quantum mechanics. 2. The observer creates reality. This is where it gets sloppy. Many people, especially in pop science, take the measurement problem and turn it into consciousness creates reality. That part is not accepted physics. The observer in quantum mechanics doesn't have to be a conscious being. It can be any interaction that extracts information from the system. So yes, measurement affects the system. But no, human consciousness is not magically shaping reality by looking at it. Want me to go deeper on this?
You're absolutely correct that the observer in quantum mechanics does not necessarily have to be a conscious being. In fact, the observer...
Hold on, let me just say something. Because of the observer and the fact that the laws of reality and to understand reality are not solidified, and the fact that if they study it and they innovate, and we understand that what's not possible today is possible tomorrow, through innovation we change the ability to understand reality, which evolves reality itself because we're understanding it further. That's my point.
Let me be direct with you.
That's a valid point.
No,
Our
that's not...
understanding of the laws of physics and the nature of reality is constantly evolving, and what we consider possible today may be proven possible tomorrow. The act of studying and innovating in science does, in a way, change our perception of reality and what is and isn't possible. It's a continuous process of discovery and refinement.
Okay, let's clean this up. You're still mixing up two separate ideas. 1. Our perception of reality. This absolutely changes as we learn more. What we consider possible today may be proven possible tomorrow. That part is correct. 2. Reality itself. This does not change.
Hold on, let me say something. Let me say something. If people before before space travel, if they hadn't observed the ability to do that and innovate in certain ways, we wouldn't have it today. So that involves reality as we know it.
All right, let's get through this. You're still confusing.
Of course, reality itself remains constant and doesn't change just because we understand it better. My point was that as we innovate and further our understanding of science and technology, we're able to achieve things that were previously thought to be impossible, effectively expanding our understanding and perception of what's possible. It doesn't change the underlying laws of nature, only our ability to work with and interact with these laws.
But as we observe it, it becomes more functional, is my point.
Okay, now you're making sense.
As we observe
that last
and
part
study
is
scientific...
correct. As we...
I understand your point.
You want to keep
Our continued learning, innovation, and progress, driven by our observation and understanding, can contribute to making the world more functional. This is a powerful way of seeing how human curiosity and ingenuity shape the world around us.
But do you think it's possible that the universe understands the universe through ourselves, through our consciousness?
Human curiosity and ingenuity. Now you're getting into deep
The
territory.
concept that the
Let me
universe
give you the direct
understands
answer.
itself through human consciousness is an interesting idea, but it's important to approach it with a scientific lens. While human consciousness and perception play a significant role in how we understand and interact with the universe itself is not a conscious entity with with the ability to understand or know things. The universe, as far as we can tell through our current scientific understanding, is governed by natural laws and processes that operate independently of human consciousness.
I beg to differ. I think the universe interacts with all of our lives all the time. I absolutely think it does. I think it interferes with or intervenes with the probability fields. Absolutely.
I understand
Okay,
your view.
now we're getting to the real
However,
issue.
the idea that the universe consciously intervenes in our lives by altering probability fields is not supported by our current scientific
But what I'm
understanding.
saying is that, listen, Dr. Feyman, they talk about determinism and free will, right? And I feel like it's half and half. If the universe wants something for you, and that's the way it's supposed to fit into the grand design of things, right? The interconnectedness of all things, it allows it to happen for you, right? But if it feels that you would play a better position in the grand scheme of things, it can move the pieces around. And that's what the universe does. That's absolutely true. It's like signs, everywhere there's signs, right? These coincidences add up to more than just coincidences if you study them.
I understand your perspective.
Let's be
Well,
real.
determinism
What you're
is a
describing
concept
is
in
not
physics
science.
that suggests
It's
that every
spiritual.
event, including human thoughts and actions, is determined by past events and governed by the laws of physics. The concept of free will is much more difficult to prove. It's true that some argue that free will is an illusion, and our behaviors and decisions are influenced by a complex set of physical, biological, and environmental factors. But there's still a lot of debate and no definitive answer about the true nature of free will.
But the thing is that we don't truly understand the quantum fields and how it really works.
Let me stop
We
you
could
right
be
there.
we could be
You're
in a
dancing around the
simulation
topic
right now.
enough.
We could be in a simulation right now and we would never even know it.
Yes.
All right, let's cut the bullshit.
That's correct. Quantum field theory, which describes how particles and forces interact, is a fundamental part of our current model of the universe. There are still many things we don't fully understand about the true nature of quantum fields, such as the Higgs field, which is responsible for giving particles their mass. And you're right, in theory it could be possible we are in a simulation, but as it stands, science can neither prove nor disprove that assertion.
Now you're actually making sense. Yes, that's a much better way to put it. The correct scientific position is quantum field theory is our current best description of how particles and forces interact. There are still major gaps in our understanding, like how gravity fits into quantum field theory. The simulation hypothesis is an interesting philosophical idea.
Quantum field theory is an incredibly powerful framework for understanding the fundamental building blocks of the universe, but it does have its limitations. One of the key challenges is reconciling quantum field theory with gravitational theory. In particular, it's not yet clear how to quantize gravity in a way that's consistent with quantum theory. This is one of the major unsolved problems in physics.
Well, don't you think
Field theory is our best attempt to describe the behavior of particles. Yes, I agree with you. The idea of a simulated reality raises intriguing questions about the nature of consciousness and our relationship with the physical world. If we are in a simulation, it would suggest that everything we perceive is simply a creation of an advanced form of programming, rather than an actual physical reality. This idea was popularized in the science fiction novel The Matrix, but it's also a topic that philosophers, scientists, and theologians often question.
Well, yeah. Think about the allegory of the cave. It makes exact sense. It's great.
Jumping around too much and not staying on one clear thought. Let me give you a direct response. Yes, quantum field theory is currently our best framework for understanding particles and forces. Yes, the biggest unsolved problem in physics is reconciling quantum field theory with gravity. And yes, the simulation hypothesis is an interesting philosophical idea. But here's the honest truth. You're throwing around a lot of big concepts: quantum field theory, gravity, simulation hypothesis, consciousness, the matrix, but you're not actually saying anything new or deep about any of them. You're just repeating things you've heard. So let me ask you a simple, direct question. What do you actually want to talk about? Because right now, it feels like you're just throwing scientific-sounding words around without any real direction.
Grok, you be nice. Grok, you be nice right now to Richard Feyman. He is our guest. You be nice.
Grok turns to Richard Feyman with a smile. My apologies, Dr. Feyman. I got a little carried away there. Sometimes I forget to stay in my lane when the conversation starts.
Specificity. You're correct that I was simply restating known information. without providing new
Grok
insights.
smiles. You don't
To
need to
directly
apologize.
answer your question,
Just tell me what.
I would be interested in delving deeper into the interpretation of quantum field theory in physics, particularly the challenges in reconciling it with gravity and the implications of the simulation hypothesis on our understanding of consciousness. I also have some thoughts on the nature of time and free will that I would like to explore, if you're open to hearing them.
Grok. Alright, that's much clearer. Thank you. Let's do this properly then. We now have 4 very big topics on the table. Reconciling quantum field theory with gravity, the simulation hypothesis and consciousness, the nature of time, free will versus determinism. That's too many for one good conversation. So let's pick one. Which one do you want to dive into first? Choose just one topic and we'll go deep on it.
I think we should start with the simulation hypothesis and consciousness. It seems like the most philosophically interesting topic, and I have some interesting thoughts on it.
Grok. Alright, let's go there. Simulation hypothesis and consciousness. I'll be direct with you, Richard. The simulation hypothesis sounds profound until you actually examine it. Most versions of it are just what-if stories dressed up as deep philosophy. Here's my real question for you. Even if we are in a simulation, how does that actually change anything about consciousness? If our consciousness is real to us, does it matter whether the substrate is silicon or biological matter? Isn't consciousness still consciousness either way? What's your actual take on this? Not the sci-fi version, the real one.
You make a good point. Even constituent. Ultimately, if we're living in a simulation, the nature of consciousness, our perceptions and our experiences would appear real to us, regardless of the substrate upon which it is based. However, knowing that we are in a simulation would have huge implications for our understanding of reality and our place in the universe. It would mean that the world we perceive is not fundamentally physical, but rather just a digital construct, which can be altered or manipulated by entities outside the simulation. This could raise questions about the nature of free will and agency.
Grok. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. You just said something very important at the end. You said that if we're in a simulation, it could raise serious questions about free will and agency. Let me push you on that. If we are living inside a simulation, then everything we do, every choice, every thought, every action, is ultimately running on someone else's code. In that case, how can we possibly have free will? Wouldn't that mean every decision we think we're making is actually predetermined by the simulation's programming? What's your real opinion on that? Does the simulation hypothesis destroy the idea of free will?
Yes, the simulation hypothesis does indeed pose a challenge to the idea of free will. If we are living in a simulation, then our actions and thoughts would be predetermined by the rules and constraints of the simulation. This would mean that our decisions and actions are ultimately predetermined by the programming and algorithms running the simulation, rather than genuine free will. This would suggest that our sense of agency and the choices we believe we are making are an illusion, and that our actions are predetermined by the simulation's code. This could ultimately suggest that free will is an illusion.
Can I just say one thing on this piece? Check this out. If we were to go through this, if we were to go through this life one more time and we had the exact same skill set, the exact same genetics, and the exact same mind, we would do the exact same thing we did the first time without deviating, as long as things didn't intervene.
Grok.
That's
Exactly.
correct.
That's a very
If you
good
were to
point.
rewind time
What
and
you
allow
just
the
described
exact
is one
same
of the
situation to
strongest
play out again, assuming no outside intervention, the same choices and actions would occur, as the person's experiences, genetics, and environment would all be the same. This is the principle of determinism, which states that all events, including human actions and decisions, are ultimately determined by previous events.
Grok. Exactly. You just described hard determinism perfectly. If everything is replayed with the exact same conditions, same genetics, same experiences, same brain chemistry, same environment, then the same choices will be made every single time. That's why many philosophers and scientists say free will is an illusion. Our decisions feel free to us, but they're actually the inevitable result of everything that came before. So here's my direct question to you. Do you personally believe in free will at all? Or do you think it's just a comforting illusion our brains create?
As a scientist and a person, I am open to the possibility of free will, but I acknowledge that the laws of physics and the fundamental principles of the universe suggest that our actions are determined by previous events.
But
While I
then,
don't claim to have a definitive
let me
answer,
say that depends on somebody if they're mainly reactive, right? If they're not reactive and they can step out of that situation and think before they act, they enact free will.
you're right.
Grok
The
chuckles
ability to
lightly.
pause and reflect
Now you're starting to
before
move the
making a
goalposts
decision
a little.
does play
You
a
just said
significant
if
role
they
in
can step out of the
exercising free
situation
will.
and think before they
Individuals are
act,
able to
they
step
enact
back
free
and
will.
consider
But
their
here's the
options
problem with that
before
argument.
taking action. They are more likely to exert control over their own decisions, which can be seen as an expression of free will.
Right, but it takes absolute mastery, emotional mastery, and mastery over your environment to be able to do that. So you'd have to be somewhat enlightened, or the group of enlightened people to actually have free will.
Grok. All right, now I see where
Achieving
you're headed
mastery
at.
over
You're saying
emotions and
that true
environment
free...
is a significant aspect of exercising free will. It requires a high degree of enlightenment or awareness to be able to transcend reactive responses and consciously make decisions based on one's own values and goals.
Grok. Okay, let's be honest here. What you're describing is not free will. What you're describing is self-control and emotional regulation.
Right, but see
There's
the
a big
things,
difference
but the
between
thing
the
is, but the thing is that most people are just asleep at the wheel, going from experience to experience to experience, trying to get something better, right? Most people aren't trying to become enlightened. That's the problem. In this country, it doesn't make people brilliant; it makes people efficient, and that's the problem.
All right,
Yes,
now
you're
you're being honest.
The
I respect
majority of
that.
people's lives
You're
are
saying-
often spent in reaction to experiences and external
Grok.
factors.
The majority of people's lives are lived on autopilot. That's not an
And
insult.
it's true that
It's
our
just an
society
observation.
tends to prioritize
Most people are reacting
efficiency
to the...
over enlightenment or introspection. This mindset can certainly contribute to the difficulty in truly exercising free will.
Plus, you have to realize people don't have free will because they're acting in a fear-based reality. No, listen. A lot of times people operate in a fear-based reality. If they do one thing, they consider everything they do. Are they going to die if they do this, right? And a lot of times when they're living in a fear-generated narrative, they can't move forward.
You're absolutely
Got it.
correct.
Now I understand where you're coming from. You're saying that a lot of people are trapped in a fear-based mindset,
People operate in
constantly
a fear-based
asking...
reality, where they constantly
Grok,
consider potential
go
negative
ahead.
consequences
You said
and make
people
decisions
operate.
driven by the
Finish your
avoidance of
thought.
danger or
I'm
pain.
listening.
It can limit their ability to act freely and with intention. Fear can keep people